Everyone.
This morning, the people of Grozny learned once again what Boris Yeltsin means by a bombing halt. Artillery shells instead of aerial bombs rained down on the center of the city. The shells and missiles smashed into apartment blocks, starting fires which the helpless occupants were powerless to put out. Most of the devastation was in residential areas, making a further mockery of the Russian president's claim that he is trying to avoid civilian casualties. 6 people died in one building alone, though today there did appear to be some sort of military objective behind the carnage. Russian shells are coming in from their positions just over there and striking near the main road into the city center, just a few hundred yards behind us. And it seems that the Russian objective is to try and sever that part of the city which contains the presidential palace from the rest of the Chechen forces in the south. Under the shell fire, the Chechen fighters remained astonishingly calm. Even while the bombardment continued, fresh troops arrived in the city center, prepared to face a Russian ground attack if it came. Reserves waiting in a nearby cellar chanted songs as they prepared for action. The Chechen platoons, organized by tribal clan and in only loose contact with headquarters, are nonetheless becoming an impressive fighting force. Today, they once again struck a telling blow against the Russian army. South of Grozny, in broad daylight, they blew up a bridge which Russian armor was trying to cross. The Russian tanks and their crews plunged into the riverbed below. But the truth is that the overwhelming attack which the Russians seem to be preparing will create a bloodbath in Grozny. A human tragedy is in the making here, and the fumbling protests of some Western governments seem powerless to prevent it. Julian Mannion, News at 10, Grozny.
And among those protests today, one from President Clinton about the high level of civilian casualties. So why is President Yeltsin ignoring Western opinion and pressing ahead? Our diplomatic correspondent, James Mates, reports from Moscow.
Tonight, Russia's Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas Eve with their country at war. Churches across the land are packed this evening, millions using this holy night to pray for peace and an end to a war that's dividing the country and undermining much that's been achieved since the fall of communism. It's a peace, though, their political leaders don't seem ready to deliver. For the first time in almost a week, President Yeltsin appeared in public to chair his Security Council, a body dominated by hardline conservative ministers, which now effectively governs Russia. Unusually, he allowed the cameras to hear him dressing down his ministers, complaining his orders to stop bombing Grozny had been ignored.
I have information the bombing was not halted, and I want an absolutely clear explanation from the defense minister about this.
Which raises the question, once again, of who's in charge here. Back in 1993, Yeltsin had answered that question with the crushing of the rebellion in the White House, and Russia enjoyed relative political stability as a result. That stability is now gone, thrown away with the decision to invade Chechnya. Yeltsin did agree today to see one of the many old allies who've turned against him. Sergei Kovalyov has become the leader of the anti-war movement. He warned Yeltsin to beware the lies and intrigues of his own military. The mothers of soldiers sent to Chechnya would like to tell him the same thing. A group of them set off for the region this afternoon in a desperate search for information. The military won't even say whose sons are among the 250 or so believed dead so far. Only a handful of bodies have been released for burial, this one a Russian military journalist killed during the New Year offensive. It's a Christmas for mourning the dead, with no prospect of a Christmas ceasefire. President Yeltsin said today, it's not the time for that. James Mates, News at 10, Moscow.